Alright, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to part 2 of our building a website in Webflow. Technically part 3, the first part was designing this in Figma, second part was building this out in Webflow, and the third part is today's video, which is adding the animations and the responsiveness to just kind of tidy things up a bit. Today's video should be a bit of a shorter one, it should be a fun one, so buckle up, strap yourselves in, and let's get web flowing. Let's get flowing. Okay, so here is our Webflow website that we got to last time. It works, but as you can see, it is not responsive. It does not work on mobile, and we are going to sort that first before we dive into the animations, the interactions of Webflow. So let's sort some of this responsiveness. As we can see at this size, at this breakpoint, everything works fine, just as we want. Now let's go down to tablet view and see how it gets affected. So we're getting some horizontal scrolling there, probably from these images, and from this here, which is making it longer, and here. So these are all easy fixes, although it looks extreme, easy to fix. So categories, 100 vertical, 100 viewport height, and auto, and then same again on footer. Perfect. Okay, so now we're good to go down. Let's see how this is looking. It will be looking the same. What do we need to change here? Let's make these images less in width. You know, let's actually change this to a percentage. Let's change this to 50 viewport width, and because they're stacked, that's going to sit nicely in there. This isn't actually causing us any problems. It is further down where we have the problems. It's this text here. So let's actually change the width on this to 100%, and we'll do overflow hidden. Now we don't have any of that horizontal scrolling. Now let's change the header top. Let's change the size to 8, and the bottom we will do the same. And we will also change that negative margin, just so it's sitting a bit nicer. Let's maybe change the width of this to 90. Yep, that's looking cool. And we will change the width of this to 90 as well. And the size of these should have changed because it's the same as the one above. All right, now we're almost done for this one. This is how easy it is. This is why Webflow is so powerful for scaling down and working responsively with. It's just great. You can see we've got some error here. Let's just reduce the padding on these to 30. And let's change that to 1 EM. That's looking good. Let's category list. Let's give this a width of, let's give this a max width of 90%. We'll leave it like this. We're actually going to change this area because we don't need it to be 100 vertical height. We are going to take that off. We'll just change that to auto. Let's neaten up this area. So let's have these stacked on top of each other. Let's make them centered. Let's make them both 100%. Now let's move this. Let's move this like that. Let's just position this. And we're actually gonna change that to auto as well. So we got the footer container. It's got this big padding on top, so let's change that to 30 pixels. Let's get rid of this, which is the padding that we had before. And that's looking quite cool. Let's actually, on this. Now, bear in mind, because we are working on this on the tablet view, everything we change is still going to be fine on this screen, but everything we change is going to be affected further down from the tablet view. So this is going to scale all the way down to mobile. So the good thing is that a lot of these changes that we are making here for the tablet view are actually affecting the mobile view too. So we are essentially, we're getting closer to what we want. Socials box, let's delete that and that. And how is that looking? That is looking quite cool actually. We'll go down to this part of the footer and let's just stack this on top of each other too, and we will align that left. You know what? We're gonna hide that because we don't even need that. Sweet. And then we'll go down to the smaller size, which is mobile landscape. This should be mostly the same. Okay, but once we get to this part, we are going to want to make these not 3 columns anymore. So we can go into our grid, which is 3 columns here, and we can just remove that. Now what is this going to do? You will see. Okay. And if we change the height on the campaigns to auto, these are now just going to stack on top of each other like that, which is really, really cool. And actually, let's go into each of these. We have our campaign image set to 100 vertical height, which is making it the full viewport. So let's actually change this to 500 pixels. We'll make it a bit more. Let's say 650 pixels. So now we can see on tablet, we've got this view here. Now this is a small tablet. Most tablets will probably sit closer to that. And then on our mobile, it starts to scale down like that. And then on, as you can see there. So how else are we looking at this size? We've got no horizontal scrolling. That's always good to look for. And let's change this to 4, and we'll change that to 4, and then we will change that padding, the margin. Let's go into here. Let's make this a little smaller so it's going to stack. Yeah. Let's reduce the padding on the bottom of these to 20. We'll take that out to 30. Let's have a look at these images and how we did this. So let's turn that to, let's change that to 30, and that's going to sit nicely like that. You know, let's actually change that to 20. And we will change the width of this to 70. Okay, so we're getting there where you have a semi-responsive website. Let's just quickly look at the mobile. Now we still have horizontal scrolling here. That looks good. That looks almost good. And we're almost good there. So let's have a look. Let's go into here. Well, actually, let's change the size of this. So let's change this to 8 EM. And we'll do 8 EM too. And then that'll change it on here. That's fine. And then let's reduce the size here to 4 and 4. I'm going to add some space underneath that. Now this isn't going to be perfect, but we will play around with this. That's looking quite cool. This will make a bit more sense once we get into the animations as well. So we got a little bit of overflow there. We can actually hide that. So if we go on to our hero and it is 100 viewport width and it's set to overflow hidden, then we shouldn't technically see that there. Let's put that to overflow hidden. There we go. That's what we want. No, it's not. Maybe we are actually fine. Let's change the rest of it and then we'll see how that's getting affected. So let's go to these categories and let's change the size of these. We're still getting some overflow. I believe that is from the image. Yeah, so that is from these images here. So let's change this to 100% height auto. Height. Okay, so there we go. So we changed the image to auto height and we just kind of tweaked things a little bit there, and hopefully you can just follow along with what I managed to do there to fix that. And you can see up here our header, and that's mostly the same. Let's just adjust that to 10. So we now have a responsive website. It's not beautiful, but it works. The whole purpose of these videos isn't necessarily to make the cleanest, tightest website. It's to, I designed this website because it's got lots of quirky little things that might just teach you a thing or two about Webflow that you might not have been aware of before. So I'm hoping it will be useful in that way, even if the website itself isn't necessarily the best. But the end result, we should have something we can work with. Mobile view, we are pretty much there. Let's go and do some animations. What do we want to do here? I think because we have this red gradient background, what could be quite cool is if that can follow you along the screen. And I definitely want to have something so if you scroll, that moves the text left and right and the images themselves. So we are going to go into hero, which is this whole entire section. And we are going to go up here to interactions. And we are going to make an element trigger when mouse moves over the element, which is hero. So let's do a mouse animation. Let's make a new animation. And we will call this gradient mouse over. Right. Now, if we open our hero, what we have in here is this gradient. Now that is that red glow that we have behind. If we click on that and we click here, we will get a little green arrow. Now we want to change this to move. And down here we have our controls. So what this is basically saying is X is going to track this 0% X to this 100% X. With whatever settings we put there. So we've got our gradient, we can click here and we can do that. We can move that. But actually let's change it to percentages. So let's say minus 50%. That's going to put the gradient right to the side. And then we'll go here and we will say 50%. And that's going to move it there. Now let's save that. And you can only preview your interactions up here, but if we go toggle preview, look what that does. That's like magic. That's quite cool. And then if we want to do the same again, we can click into it here. We can do the same again, but with the Z-axis. So we can go to the start, 0%, move. Let's do minus 50%. Oh, nope, sorry, not there. Let's do minus 50%. And we will do 50% here. Now let's have a look. Look at that. Where you put the mouse, it is going to pull that gradient around, and then when you take the mouse off, it's just going to go back to the center. That's quite cool. That was so easy to do. We also have this gradient on the bottom section. If we want to have that affected, you can reuse interactions for classes, but because we have this assigned to the element and this is called a different element, we will just go into here and we'll make sure that we're on footer. We'll go into here and we'll do the same process again, but this time we can just click on the same interaction that we have and do done, and that'll apply it there too, because that's also called gradient, that's within there. So they're essentially the same sections, just slightly different naming, but if we do it like that, then it will apply it to both of them. It will also apply it to mobile too, but what we probably want to do is we want to turn that off, because you don't mouse over on a touch screen. You only touch. You can touch and drag, but no one's touching and dragging and using a website like that. People are scrolling a website, so we don't want that effect. So let's actually turn this off on all of them apart from desktop and above, and we will do the same on the hero. And so now you can see that if we go into mobile, it doesn't do that, which is what we want. Sweet. So that is our first interaction down, and I'm happy with that. It's fun. Next thing we're going to do, let's move this text when we scroll. This is going to be done in a similar way. Let's go into hero because it's the same section. So let's, while scrolling in view, play scroll animation. We are going to add an animation. And we're going to call this text scroll. Now, in a similar way that we did before, let's go to heading and let's do move 0. And we want to have this set to 50%. That way, after playing around a good bit, we have this scrolling effect there, which is all right. It's not ideal. I would definitely want to adjust that a little bit more, but that'll be fine for now. And we can actually just keep it going, keep that on all viewports, and that will be fine. Next thing we want to do is we want to separate these images when we scroll too. We're going to give these each an individual class. So we'll call this first one, this one that's sitting on top, we're going to call that image 1, image 2, and image 3. Now the reason we're doing that is because we want to have some kind of staggered effect with it. So now we can actually move them independently. So let's go into our text scroll and let's go into this one, which is hero image 1. We'll do move. As you can see here, it is affecting hero image 1. And we will put that on 0. And we will go 100%. We will move this, just say 20 viewport width. Here we'll go 0 viewport width. So we've got it, it's working. We've lost our rotation, but we've got something there. And then hero image 2, let's add the scale on that. So we'll call that 1. And hero image 2, we'll add the scale down here and we'll say 1.3. So that's just going to get bigger as we scroll, which is quite cool. And then lastly, we have our hero image 3. So let's go in here, make sure it's selected. Then we will go move 0 viewport width, which is just going to keep it where it is right now. And we will go down here and we will move it. Where did we move the other one? 20 viewport width. We will move that in the opposite way. So now we could make another class, call it rotate. And we might want to say 20. Yep, that's looking good. And then on 100, we actually, I don't know, we could try this. Where they kind of starts that way. Let's try that, because that could work quite cool. So we'll do the same again on this. For hero image 2, we'll go rotate like we did before, 20. Then we'll go down here, rotate 0. This is gonna work. We'll do the same with hero image 3. Okay, so something like that works. So I would definitely tweak that a little bit more, maybe adjust the sizing of things and the sort of position of the text as you scroll. But there you can get an idea of how these interactions build up and how you can add so many separate parts and individual things. And you can pretty much do whatever you can imagine with Webflow, which is really useful. Our campaigns here, and we will do another interaction. So we'll start a new animation. We will call this campaign hover in. Now, what do we want to happen when we hover over one of these boxes? I think we could have the image get bigger, which is going to be cool. So let's click on campaign image. We'll go up here. We'll do scale. At 0, we want it to be 1. We want it to be, just say 1.3. Now we're going to need to add an overflow, and so we need to sort some overflow. So let's go into campaign and let's just check overflow hidden. So now, bang. But we need it to go back, and to go back we are going to have to do a hover out. So we've made a hover in, which is that there. We can preview it like that. Let's actually just change this to 1.2, and then we'll make a hover out action, and we will call this campaign hover out. And then we'll make sure that the image is selected, go here, scale, and so we're going from 1.2 to 1. So let's delete that. There's our hover in, hover out, hover in. Sorry, I've actually done this a bit of a weird way, but we'll change that. So our scale there is 1.2. That's what's actually going to happen when we hover. So there, like so. Now, the beauty of Webflow, one of the best things about it, we can change this to class. So now it's going to do that for each of our campaigns. Anything that is called campaign, which is just these 3. So what else do we want to do with this hover? We could have this text kind of reveal itself. That might be quite cool. So we'll go on our campaign text and we will move this down 100%. And then now, if we go into our campaigns, go into our interaction, hover in, we go to the text, we can now change this to minus 100%. Actually, just 0. And then we'll go into our hover out. Make sure our text is selected. Move that, and then we will just move it back to where it was before. So now we have this. Now we definitely probably do some tweaking on that, but that's a fairly quick interaction for that section. And on mobile it works quite well, although we would maybe disable it on mobile, but it works fine. Now we want to do something cool for this. So we're going to open our Figma here, and we're going to grab this image. We're going to grab this image here. So let's export this. We want to have it so that when we scroll over one of these, there's a cool hover that shows us an image that corresponds for each section. Now let's do that. First of all, let's add in that image. Let's add that into campaign text. We'll go choose image. Now where is that going to go? We're gonna move this down to category link. There we go. And we got to make sure that this is set to relative. And we can position this on the right, maybe 20%, and minus 5%. We can just use our eye to kind of figure this out. Now we want to have this display none, but then when someone hovers over it, we want to turn that to display block. So that's how we're going to do that section. Let's rename this to just category image, because we will reuse this, and we'll copy and paste that for each one. So now each one of that has that in there, so we could go like that and you could see it's just duplicated. Category link, we will do mouse hover. And we're going to make a new one. We're going to call this category hover in. And what do we want to happen? We want this text to turn white. So let's go here and we'll go text color. We'll change that to white. And we will go here and we'll change text color of that to our red. Bang, just like that. And then let's go to our category image and we will go hide and show, and we will change that to block. So this is what we got now. Now we'll make a hover out. That's just getting rid of some of those things. So category hover out, and we will make sure that that goes back to that color, and that the number goes back to that. And that the image, what we doing with the image? Do you know? You should know. We are hiding it again. So let's see what we got. That is so cool. Now, in here, what is the beauty of Webflow? The fact is that we can just go like this. And because all of these have the class category link, are you ready for some real magic? Look at that. That is bloody amazing. We can and would add a different image for each of these, but the way that we would generate these images would be using Webflow's CMS, which is something I might cover in the next video. If enough people watch this and enough people demand it, let me know and I will do a full tutorial on how to make it a full CMS driven website. So each of these images will pull from the back end. You know, these would pull from pre-curated campaigns that you would set in the back end, and this would pull through images from your categories and all of that. So essentially your stuff basically turning it into an actual functioning dynamic website. If there's enough demand, if there's any comments, if you guys want to see that, I will do it. Otherwise I might not, because I just want to show the basics of Webflow. Right, for this last section we have this, which is quite cool. Let's just add in very simple interactions here, because Webflow actually has some inbuilt interactions which are quite good for some simple stuff. So let's click on this, and we'll do, when scroll into view, we can just give it an action. So let's say we will make it slide up from the bottom, and let's have these footer containers, let's have them do the same. So scroll into view, we'll have them slide up from the bottom, but then let's add an offset, let's add a delay of 500. So now what that's going to look like when we scroll into the bottom, see that? It'll only do it the once. We'll do this, we'll have this scroll into view. Yeah, we'll leave it at that just for the fun of it. That's not normally what I would do, but that is all right. We have successfully made our site responsive. There's no longer any horizontal scrolling as you go down, and things move as they should. They move into place. So these start as 3 columns that then cascade down into single columns. This all works as it should. This is all cascaded on top of each other all the way down to mobile. And we also have our interactions, which work all the way down too. And our interactions are this gradient background with the mouse over. Then we have this sort of moving in view display where these images are rotating, getting bigger, moving on the screen, and the text is moving too. We have these hover interactions, and then we have this cool editorial thumbnail hover too. And here, the last section is just demonstrating some of the generic Webflow interactions that are just added into it, and you can add them to any element super easy, very quickly. If you guys want me to work on the more back-end part of the website, I happily will, but only if there's enough demand. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more design related videos, and you can also check out my Patreon, where if you want to join that and support me, that would be really, really useful and kind of you. So thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one.